Chapter 9. On Christmas Day, Teresa visited with her grandfather and his brother. They reminisced about old times and laughed at the little things that their loved ones had once shared with them. It was a nice, peaceful day, but there was a void where Teresa's sister was concerned. They all had to admit that they wondered where she was and was she okay. In that moment, Teresa sighed and gave her sister over to God. Her grandfather had given his life over to Christ when his wife died, and so he asked Teresa to teach him and his brother how to pray. They all prayed together, and it was as if a weight had been lifted off of her shoulders. Her only wish was that her grandmother could have been there to share in such an awesome moment. The drive home later that day found Teresa in deep thought. She kept running through her mind the argument her and her sister had. They had fought as children, but had never been as intense as that moment. To think that her sister was completely out of her life was heartbreaking and eye-opening. To go from a time of feeling like a child again to suddenly getting slapped back into the harshness that adulthood sometimes throws one's way was almost too much for her. And when she arrived home, Teresa couldn't wait to get inside and relax. After channel surfing for a while, Teresa switched the TV off and opted for an afternoon nap instead. The dream she had was a memory from a long, long time ago. She could be heard tiptoeing through the upstairs hallway. A knock, made Teresa sit up in bed as a younger and sweeter-looking Cece poked her head into the room. "Are you up?" Cece asked as she sniffled. "I am now," Teresa frowned, but waved in Cece and the teddy bear she was holding. "I had a nightmare again." Cece started to really sob. "Why don't you go tell Mom and Dad about it?" "Because they have to work tomorrow, but you don't. You only have to go to school. You have time for me and Mr. Ruffles, don't you, sis?" "Yes, I do." "He was this big, I swear on it." Cece extended her arms as far as they would go. "Was he now?" Teresa was trying not to snicker. "It's not funny. He is so mean. Even Mr. Ruffles got scared, and he usually fights the monsters off for me." "Well, if Mr. Ruffles was scared, then he had to be big." "See, I knew she would believe me, Mr. Ruffles. You need to have more faith in me." "Well, how about you and the bear sleep in here with me for just tonight, and then we will talk with Mom and Dad tomorrow and see what we can do about this monster business. Sound like a plan?" "Yes, thank you, Sissy. I love you." Cece threw her arms around her sister. "Don't push it, kid." Teresa woke up on the couch crying. After all these years, she could still remember that very night. It was a time when her sister really did turn to her for help. How the times had changed. She grabbed for her phone to give her sister a call, but then laid it back down. She knew that Cece would come around when the time was right for her. New Year's Eve came with a warning for Teresa. The firm she worked for was playing off the slogans, "Don't drink and drive," and a new one about "Don't be a dope, just give up your smokes." With the slogans in her face all day, she wanted so badly to contact her sister and make sure she was all right. But what good would it do? She didn't want to drive her sister over the edge. Some of the staff was planning on going out to celebrate, but Teresa said she already had plans, and when she left for the day, she was more than ready to end the year for good. Her plans included some Chinese takeout, a bottle of red wine, one of her favorite movies, and a cat purring on her lap. It was a night of peace and quiet, a night just for her, and she was grateful for that. Right near the end of her movie, her phone went off. It was about 7:30, and she had no clue as to who it could be on the other end of the line. Her phone screen read "Unknown caller." She chose to take the call anyway, and it was her sister, sobbing like she had when she was a child. Teresa, I need you to come and get me." "What's wrong, Cece? Where are you?" "I'll text you the address. Please pray for me, and hurry before it's too late." "No, don't hurt me, please, no." With Cece's last scream, the line went dead. Teresa checked in with her grandfather as she was getting ready to head out the door to see if he knew where her sister might be. He was at a loss, though, and so she took off blindly into the night and went to a couple different bars asking questions. No one recognized her sister, and each time she left empty-handed, her heart sank even more. When she tried calling the number back for the 5th time, someone finally picked up. "Who is this, and why do you keep calling? Where is Cece? Who wants to know? I'm her sister. Now tell me, where is she, and is she okay?" She's a little unconscious at the moment, but you could come pick her up. Here is where I'm located. Drive to the end of Morris Street. Make a left turn from there. Drive all the way to Maynard Hill. Once up there, you will see a trailer court. You can find me in the very back trailer. Your sister will be lying out in the driveway. Please get her sorry rear end out of here. I'm finished with her." "How dare you?" The laugh on the other end of the line sounded like that of a drunken chain smoker. After a good cough, the guy spoke. "I dare because I have been selling Cece her stash for the past few years. I told her if she were ever late on a payment that there would be trouble, and, well, this is what happens when the payment is late. I'm on my way, and you better not be planning on any funny business or I will get the police involved. I just want the trash out of here, so make haste." Teresa took off in her Tahoe. She hadn't updated her grandfather yet because she wanted to take care of her sister first. She knew she would be embarrassed and ashamed enough without her grandfather breathing down her neck. The drive took almost 25 minutes, and when she arrived, her sister was lying in the driveway and looked lifeless. Teresa noticed a blind move in the trailer, but paid no mind and struggled to get her sister to the Tahoe. Once inside, she raced to the hospital and had to go in and ask for someone to get her sister inside safely. About an hour later, she was in a darkened room watching her sister sleep. Teresa bowed her head and prayed. Once she raised her head, she saw her grandfather standing in the room looking at her with tears in his eyes. "I never realized that Cece was in any serious trouble like this. I mean, I knew she had some issues, but nothing this extreme." "So you talked to the doctor?" "Yes, I did. Your grandmother and I are listed as both you and Cece's contacts. I hope you don't think I'm mad that you didn't call me. I imagine you were in shock yourself." "I knew that Cece was in trouble and that she was dabbling with drugs, but I never realized that it was this bad. I didn't call you because I wanted to speak to her first. I figured that she would feel bad enough and probably wouldn't want you to see her this way." "Well, I don't like seeing her this way, I will say that much. My God, she is lucky to even be alive. The doctor said that she will continue to be monitored for a few days and that it is still touch and go. Whoever hurt her knew what he was doing. It was her drug dealer. Evidently she was late on a payment." "Ugh, you dang kids and your need for trouble. When I was a kid, we didn't have time for this stuff. I had more fun swimming with the guys and girls at the Ring Rock, drinking with my buddies on Saturday night, and square dancing. Kids today are so reckless." "You realize that she's not a kid anymore, right, Grandpa?" "I know that, but you will both always be like children to me. Your grandmother and I always felt like second parents to the both of you." "I know, Grandpa, but right now Cece doesn't need a lecture. She needs us to pray for her and help her pull through this." "Have you heard from God yet? I recall that preacher saying that he was making personal contact with you." "No, I haven't heard from him. He's not some kind of magic that just poofs up out of nowhere. I could stand to hear his voice now, but prayer is our wireless connection, and I'm cool with that. Are you?" "Yes, anything to help your sister pull through this, I will do. I have been praying, you know, and I am grateful that you helped your grandmother and me to find God. That man has really changed my life." "I'm glad to hear it. I know that he is glad that you know him too." "I have been meaning to ask you about something. Why did God choose to call you? What made you the one?" "I honestly have no clue. I asked him, and he never gave me a response. I suppose he either will in his time, or he will just let it be what it is. Regardless, I am just thankful that I can talk to him anytime." "Yes, it is nice to know that there is always someone who has your back. I just wish that your sister would have come around to that." "There is still time. I feel a slight sense of hope because when she called me, she asked me to pray for her. I am really taking that as a good sign, and I know that no matter what, we can't give up on her." "No, we can't. We need to stay strong for her. Let's give this praying thing a whirl now, because, like it is said, the phone call is free. They both laughed and then got down to business. It wasn't quite midnight yet, and they were praying for a miracle to start off the new year.